What up, Flowmies? It's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. And this week, we're going to do our recurring segment, Gabe's Corner. Now, I don't claim to know everything, but I know a thing or two, and that's what this segment is about. And this week, we're going to talk a little bit about window cleaners taking care of their mental health. Now, before we start, I'm not speaking to medically induced types of mental health. We're not talking about, like, for instance, bipolar, severe anxiety, depression, those types of things that perhaps you need to talk to a counselor about, and maybe perhaps even get medication. You know, that's of course your personal decision on those things. However, with owning a business, there are stresses and strains on a person and an individual that you're not going to find at your average 9-to-5 job. Certainly, those types of jobs have pressure, and a lot of people have had difficulty in dealing and handling with the stress and pressure of that 9-to-5 job. But being a business owner, it's a whole different ballgame. And if you've never owned a business before, you become a window cleaner, and all of a sudden you're having to deal with different things that you never had thought before, such as, hey, am I going to have work next week? Oh, it's going to rain all week. Now, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my mortgage? Am I doing everything right? Am I where I'm supposed to be? All of these questions are things that can produce anxiety. Now, because window cleaners generally are a more independent-minded group, oftentimes we hold it in, either one, because we're proud, we don't want to talk about it, we want to seem like we're weak, or we don't want our friends or family to know that we may be struggling with something. But two, we just may not have anyone to talk about. We may not have peers that kind of understand the ins and outs of owning a business, and in particular a window cleaning business. Now, certainly there are groups out there. ITF is one. There's a bunch of different window clean groups on Facebook and on Reddit, on different places where you can find a community, or you can join an organization like the IWCA. There's a lot of different things that you can do to be able to get assistance, and that's what we're going to talk about, because causes of anxiety can be varied, and you have to kind of be able to, one, identify what things are bothering you and what things are affecting you, and then two, trying to figure out how you can manage and cope and handle these types of circumstances. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When are you going to experience these things, and how do you handle it when it happens? So first, let's talk about some of the causes of anxiety that business owners may face. For one is having unrealistic expectations about how your business is going to be. And this is especially true when you're just starting out. Maybe you're only 1-2 years into it. There's a lot of unknowns. And so you may have an idea in your mind about where your business should be at this time. And it's certainly not wrong to have expectations, right? That's the whole reason why we go into business. We want our business to be a certain point at a certain time, so that we can either leave our main job, so we can do this full time. Two, we can perhaps maybe increase our income, our personal income, so maybe we can buy the house instead of rent, or get the newer car instead of always buying used, those types of things. So those are all natural expectations that you would have, that your business could fill those needs. Of course, in the real world, is that there is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to running a business, and things that work at one time may not work the next. So expecting to make a certain amount, or to pay bills, or to pay a debt, or whatever it may be, that can bring undue anxiety when your business begins to fall short of that. Now, the thing that we have to be careful with sometimes is we may have those expectations just because we have those expectations. We may not have any actual data that backs up our ability to be able to reach those goals or those milestones that we have set for ourselves. This just may be in our mind. We just may have pulled it from thin air. Or we may be comparing ourselves with another company, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But we may look at where they're at and the numbers they're pulling, or when they pulled when they first started, because they told us. And now we may automatically assume that we should be able to be there as well. So if we have unrealistic expectations, it is naturally going to cause stress when a year, 2 years down the road, your business is there and you're not meeting those expectations. And you may have made plans, right? You may have bought a new house, or you may have bought a new vehicle, or you may have bought equipment on loan that you would have expected to already paid it off. And now here it's 2 years and you're still having all of this debt that you were not anticipating at that time. So certainly unrealistic expectations can bring a lot of stress to your life. Now, getting back to what I mentioned earlier, another source of stress is comparing ourselves to others. Now, this could be maybe a competitor in our area, and we kind of see that they've got 3 trucks, they've got 5 trucks, they've got billboards, they're on the radio, whatever it may be, and you start to see and you start wondering, well, how come they're there? Should I be there? Should I be doing those things? What's wrong with my business that I've not achieved this particular type of notoriety or success? But also online, listen, if you're a part of any Facebook group, you're continually bombarded with other window cleaners telling you how great their life is, right? How great their business is and how they're killing it and how they're getting all these reviews and how they made, 6 figures last year. And now they're going to go for 7 this year and all of these things. And you're thinking, man, I'm not even close to any of that. What's wrong with me? Am I doing a bad job? And so comparing ourselves with other people can have a detrimental effect because we may be successful. We may actually be finding success for our area, for our income level, and we may actually be providing for our family and doing the business is doing what you wanted to do. But yet then we start to find dissatisfaction in that business because it does not match with this person over here or this person over here or this person, because they're now the pinnacle of success. And that's what we should try to reach. So we can begin to develop jealousy, dissatisfaction with what we've already done simply because we are comparing ourselves with other people who may not have the same issues that we have, right? They may not have this, they may have a better area with a bit higher paying clientele. They may have other things available to them, tools and education and things like that may help them to get ahead. But we're not thinking of any of that. All we're thinking of is, why am I not where they're at? What am I doing wrong? And how is this going to affect the future of my business because I'm not where I'm supposed to be? So unfairly comparing yourself with others is another source of stress that we can find ourselves trapped in if we're not careful. Another thing is not planning ahead. Now, certainly there are things with owning a business that you're just not going to be able to prepare for, right? You drive down the road and someone sideswipes you and now you've got to buy a new vehicle, right? I mean, how can you prepare for that? You just don't. I mean, you have insurance, you do your best to save up some money, but ultimately we just don't know when those things are going to happen. How are we going to handle when all of a sudden this type of marketing that we were using and it was successful, now it's not working anymore, right? I mean, that happened to me when we used to use the Yellow Pages. And back when I first started, that was the pinnacle of advertising. If you weren't in the Yellow Pages, boy, no one was calling you. And then slowly but surely, guess what? Nobody's using the Yellow Pages anymore. It's all online, it's all digital. And that was a hard transition for my business. So planning ahead involves trying to understand the things that we can learn about. For instance, what things are expected as a business owner, right? I mean, paying taxes, talking to business professionals, helping us to know, well, how much should we pay our employees? What are how much should we be charging our customers in order to be able to ensure that we make a profit? Finding out what the number is that we have to hit every month in order to say, hey, yes, this was a successful month. Those are all things that we can do research to find out, right? Doesn't mean that we're always going to hit them because, we don't always know what our business is truly capable of, especially in the beginning. But doing that research, talking to the people who have been business owners for, a decade or more, talking to your accountant or to another business professional who can help you with that. Those are all things that you can learn either beforehand or early on in your business ownership. And so if you fail to do that type of homework, what's going to happen is you're going to be making a lot of uneducated decisions, and they're going to be essentially guesses. And what happens when you make guesses? Well, sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. And unfortunately, more often than not, you're making the wrong decision and you're hurting your business financially. You're not being efficient. You're getting yourself in trouble with the IRS because you didn't do your taxes right, or you didn't file the form that you were supposed to. You weren't paying quarterly taxes. You didn't save up for the taxes. I mean, there's just a number of different things that window cleaners kind of fall into because they didn't do the proper research ahead of time, and now they're struggling to try and get out of a hole they dug themselves in because they just didn't do the research, right? And that adds stress. Being in a hole and feeling like you can never climb out of it because every year it's the same thing. See, if you don't educate yourself on that, you're going to continually find yourself having to deal with that stress. So definitely not planning ahead, not learning what you need to learn is going to cause undue anxiety and stress. And the last thing is a person's inability to handle stress, the stress and pressure that naturally come from running a business. Listen, right now I run, we have 4 trucks, got different crews. We're trying to run everything. So the other day we had 2 customers at the same day, almost at the same time, have complaints about crews that we sent out. So I'm trying to deal with both of these situations, trying to make the right decision to save the customer, to make sure that they're satisfied, to make sure that I'm training the crews to do it right. And when I had things already planned in the day that I needed to do and I had to drop in order to handle that, I mean, that's pressure. Now, if you're someone who can't handle that uncertainty and that being put in that position to have to make the hard decisions, you're going to struggle as a business owner. Even if you're a single owner operator, there's going to be things that pop up that you're going to have to handle, right? And if something comes up, especially with a customer, and maybe even they're just a not nice person, and maybe they're even sue happy and they're threatening to call their lawyer and they're threatening to do this, and you're thinking, I can't afford a lawyer, I can't afford to deal with this situation. How do you manage that? See, because what happens is if you don't know how to manage that, you make bad decisions. Either you lash out at the customer, you do something that makes the situation worse, or you start throwing money at it, right? And all of a sudden, you're taking not only just a little bit of a loss, but a big loss, because now you're making decisions that didn't need to be made, but you made them out of fear or out of uncertainty, and now you're making the situation worse on your own business. It can also, if we don't know how to handle the financial uncertainty of our business, we can also get into trouble by cutting deals with customers, right? Or throwing really insanely low prices. And now we've got to honor those prices, which means we're going to be doing work at a loss. So at the time when we need money, yeah, we may get a little bit an influx of money, but over time, we're going to be paying for that bad decision for a long time to come. And we're going to continually find ourselves in our hole when we make reactionary decisions instead of meaningful, thoughtful decisions. So again, just to go over those situations. So having unrealistic expectations, comparing yourself to others, not planning ahead, and being unable to handle the natural stress and pressure that comes from owning a business. Those are all things that can cause stress. Now, if we allow those to continue to simmer and to bother us, it is going to affect our mental health. Burnout is real. And, when we're continually working, I mean, because you work hard, right? Especially if you're a sole proprietor and you need that income in order to provide for your family, you're going to be working a lot. So you're already physically exhausting yourself. But if you don't have this mental part in control, it's going to overwhelm you, right? And it can hurt your ability to provide for your family. And so what are some things you can do in order to try and keep a handle on the stress and anxiety that naturally comes from running a business? Well, there's a few things that you can do, and these are things that have helped me greatly. Before we get into this, though, I should just share, I'm not just talking about this as just someone who is looking from above down. I dealt with anxiety for a good portion of my life, and I'm a perfectionist, put a lot of pressure on myself. I care and I love my family. I want to make sure they have the things that they need. And, I unfortunately went into my business not knowing a lot of things. A lot of things I had to learn on the back end, right? After I had made years of bad decisions and put myself in a hole. To dig myself out of that took a long time. And it took a lot of these steps that we're going to talk about here. So I don't want to give the impression that somehow I've achieved, some type of elevation above others. I mean, I still have to always be aware that stress and anxiety can affect me. And so these are some things that can help us to kind of keep it in check, manage it, and that we can continue on and being successful businessmen. So one thing is to have a friend or a mentor that you can talk to. Again, because window cleaners tend to be an independent bunch, oftentimes we don't want to talk to others. We don't want to share the personal dealings with what we're facing as business owners. And it could be because we're embarrassed, right? I mean, it could be some things that we know we should have done, but we just didn't do it. I mean, taxes is a big thing. I've talked to several window cleaners who have been in business for years, and they are in trouble with the IRS. They just are not good at doing taxes. They just don't keep good records. And, they don't file, or they file incorrectly. And then, they get the letters and they just don't want to deal with it. So they put them in a drawer and they just let things fester and get worse and worse and worse. If you have someone you can talk to about it, someone who is a business owner, they can often help you just take those first few steps to kind of get you going in the right direction. That way you don't feel like you're doing this all yourself, or you're guessing, because a lot of times when we are facing things we don't understand, like taxes, for instance, we can just feel like we are not capable of doing this at all. And that's the first thing that we do, is we stuff it in the corner and we just don't even want to deal with it. We want to focus on the things we can handle, right? We know we can get that house looking beautiful with shiny windows because we've been cleaning windows for a long time. We can handle the squeegee. We can do customer service. We can make sure that we have a good reputation in our area. But we still have to handle all the other business stuff, right? So if we have someone we can talk to, we can confide in, then this is going to help us to handle the smaller, I shouldn't say smaller, the bigger issues that we have a tendency to kind of push aside, right? We all know Kevin Hargis, who's one of the mods in ITF. He always quotes from a book, eat your frogs. In other words, do the important but hard things first. If we eat our frogs first, then we can handle all the other things. And learning to do that really comes from talking to someone who has been there, right? So if we can have a mentor, we have someone we can talk to, from time to time, they can offer us, just say the thing, or at least tell us it's going to get better, and maybe give us some advice on how to tackle that frog that is just really killing us because we are choking on it because we just cannot swallow it, right? So having a friend or mentor to talk about is big. ITF, that is essentially what ITF is set up to be. It's meant to be a group of mentors that we can help each other out, that you can find one or two people that you just connect with, or maybe they're in your area, or maybe they have your same background, or whatever it may be, that you can find mentors there, and there may be different mentors for different situations, because we're all different businessmen. We all have different experiences. We're all at different stages of our business, and you might be able to find help from a wide variety of different people. So take advantage of ITF or IWCA or some other areas where you can find a mentor, and be sure to talk about these things that you have difficulty dealing with. The other thing is to learn to come to peace with failure and struggle. I think too many people view struggle or having mistakes come up, or like the word failure. And I hate failure as in business, because it really does not exist, at least not in the strictest sense. All failure is what happens when you make decisions in a scenario in which there are not constants, right? There are so many variables that come up in running a business. Now, you can hit a stride, certainly. I mean, you can have kind of a steady income and a steady growth, but you never see a line that, I should go this way because it's backwards on the screen. You never see a line go like this. It's always up and down, up and down, up and down, right? And because there's variables that come. What your goal is just at the end of that graph, you just want it to be up. You want it to be higher than it was when you started. And so if you continually view every down as a failure, man, you can be beating yourself up. You are going to be continually thinking you are the worst business owner because you lost $500 on that job, right? And it ruined the profit for that week. Well, guess what? There's 52 weeks in the year. What about the average of those 52? If those average is higher than what you need to be, guess what? You had a good year, right? So why are you going to focus on that one week that how you had a truck breakdown and then the customer got mad, so you had to do the job for free, and then one of your techs broke a window and you had to replace that, and oh boy, this week was the worst. That's business, right? What you do is you hope that it just ends up, it gets covered in the wash, and at the end of the month you've got a plus on that side, right? But even if you have a bad month, as long as the 12 months, the average of that is good, you had a good year, right? So you have to be able to understand that just because you struggle, that doesn't mean you're a bad business person. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? We're going to talk a little bit about that later. But that is just business. It's okay to struggle. It is okay to make a bad decision, whether it's on marketing, whether it's on a hire that you made, whether it's on taking a certain customer, or trusting a certain contractor or vendor that is using you. I mean, there's a bunch of different things you can do and make a bad decision, and it hurts your business in the short term. Not a big deal. You just have to be able to take it. That's just business. Make a better decision the next time, right? Learn from that experience. Don't make the same mistake over and over again. And that's life. That's okay. It's okay to do that. Don't allow your brain to go to the dark places when you have those bad times, because every single business owner has those bad times. It's just you're all it means is you're just like every other business cleaner or business owner, every other window cleaner, so allow yourself to have peace with that failure and that struggle. And if you can do that, then when the good times come back, you're not going to still be thinking about the bad times. You're going to be focusing on the future growth that your business has. I mentioned a while ago, the other thing is to not base your self-worth on how your business is doing. Listen, the thing about taking on a business is there is always a chance that it can go under. That's just a fact. You can be having a great year. You can be 2, 3 years, 4 years into it, and all of a sudden something happens. There's some change in the economy in your town, or you just have a bunch of really bad things happen all at once. You get sick, your health is affected, the health of your family is affected, and now you have to devote more time to it, and you might have to shut down. Does that mean that you were a bad person? Right? Because I think sometimes when our business struggles, our natural leap is, well, then I'm a bad person. Not like bad, like I'm doing bad, but bad in the sense that, oh, I'm dumb, or how could I do this? And nobody else, if someone else had this position, they wouldn't have made the mistakes I did. They would have been successful. You got to stop doing that. You got to stop beating yourself up, because business is just business. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's successful. Sometimes, no matter how good of a business owner you are, you're still going to fail. If you have not watched the Michael Draper interview that we did, I think it was in season 2. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're just a business owner, I highly recommend go back and listen to that episode, because he hits on so many of these topics, because he, as a business owner, was fearless, and he had many different businesses, and some of them went under. Some of them were not successful, or some of them that he had these grand visions of how they would turn out, and they started in that way, and then they came back. But the thing that he said is the thing about successful entrepreneurs is they never say, I failed at business. What they say is that business failed. And having that mindset, understanding that you're a business owner and you can control a few things, but ultimately the business is going to be successful or not. If a business goes under, if that's what happens, and it's unfortunate and certainly not the thing that we want, and we're not going to be okay with it, but we're also not going to put that all on us as if this is a statement about the type of person that we are, right? It's just business. That's all it is. Some are going to do well, some are not. And so if yours doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You just move on, right? Go on to the either next business or go back to, working for someone. I mean, there's no shame in that. Some people are just better employees than they are business owners. It's not a big deal, right? So not putting that pressure on your shoulders of, man, this has to be a success. Otherwise, I'm just not the person I thought I was. Get rid of that. Get rid of it. This is an experiment. When you start your business, it is an experiment. You're trying to see if this is going to work for you. And if you can separate yourself from the business, you're going to be able to handle the stress and anxiety that comes with being a business owner a whole lot better. Another thing, and we talked about this in the beginning, prepare and plan for what you can, right? So you have this opportunity as a business owner to do the homework. Now, again, not everything is going to be there laid out on the table for you. You're going to have to do what about bookkeeping? If that's not your strong suit, hire a bookkeeper, but you're going to have to learn some things about bookkeeping, right? Because I'll tell you what, if you don't, your bookkeeper is going to be really upset at you that you're not giving them this and this and this, and you're not saving receipts, and you're not keeping things on record. But you can talk to them about it. You can also take courses. There are business courses through the IWCA, the huge convention. There's people who will hold these little small mini courses that will give you just enough information for what you need in order to make smart decisions for your business. I mentioned taxes, learning about what you have to do as a business owner for tax. Man, so many people get themselves in big trouble because of that. So taking the time to do the homework that's necessary, but also organization. How do you run an office, right? How do you run crews? What should you pay yourself? Should you pay yourself as in disbursements, or should you have a salary, right? Should you get an LLC or some other type of corporation where you separate your business from you and you become an employee of that company? I mean, there's a lot of different things that you have to make decisions on. Educate yourself, talk to people, find out the answers to the questions that you have. Have a pad and write down the questions that you have, the things that you don't know that you really need to know. And in that way, you can kind of slowly get yourself to be the smart business person that you need to be in order to be successful as a business person. And if you are prepared, even if, like I said, there's gonna be things you can't prepare for, but if you are as prepared as you possibly can be, that is going to alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety that you have to face, because you're going to at least kind of either know what to expect on certain things, but even if you don't, you're going to know where you can go to find the answers, right? And that is very reassuring when you're dealing with uncertainty as a business owner. The last thing that you can do is to accept what you can't and play the cards that you were dealt. I mentioned earlier that comparing yourself to other window cleaners in your area, and especially those on social media, is very unfair to yourself. And the reason is because, again, there are variables that you may be facing that other people may not. For instance, one business owner in your area went to college and has a business degree and understands how to run a company. And they're running their business as they would like a franchise, and they're just killing it, and they're growing, and they're adding trucks and all of that. You may not have that education. That's okay. Guess what? Your business can still be what you need it to be for your family, and that's okay. So understanding that may be a limitation, and you may not be a millionaire, but it may be what you need it to be. So again, that just may be the cards you're dealt. You just may not have been able to go and get that type of education. That's okay. Do your best, right? The other thing too is you may be in an area that perhaps the mean income is lower, right? So you're looking at someone on social media and they're in Beverly Hills and they're cleaning, one house is, they're charging $800 and they've got 3 houses in a day that they do. I mean, and you're in an area where there's no way you could possibly, if you take $800 in a full day, you're doing really good, right? So why would you compare yourself with someone in that situation? You can't, right? They're dealing with different variables than you are. So you can't compare apples to oranges. You have to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. What are some aspects that are similar that I can learn from those people, but not expect myself to be equal to those people when it comes to terms of numbers and income and profitability and those types of things. And so, that's the case. Now, another thing that may not be in your control is your family's health. Maybe you do have a mother who is ill and you're going to be responsible for their care. And if you're just starting out, guess what? You're going to be limited in what time and energy you're going to be able to give towards your business. So you may be good just maintaining a customer base that you have. Also, if your own health may be going down, say you've been doing windows like myself for 20 years, and you're a single owner operator, and pretty soon you start recognizing that, hey, you know what? I've only got about 4 or 5 more years left in this body to be doing the level of work that I'm doing this time. That's a factor you're going to have to deal with, right? You're going to have to start planning. Well, am I going to hire? And am I going to start training people to take over the business so I can run it as an owner instead of a worker? Or am I going to have to start kind of getting my business in line so that when I want to retire, I can sell it and use that money to help with my retirement? Or am I going to just let it go, which a lot of window cleaners do it, and they're perfectly fine with that, just letting it go. Maybe turning the customers over to someone that they know and trust that's going to do as equal a good job and have good customer service. I mean, that's certainly a way to go. But whatever it may be, your circumstances are going to be different than other people. And again, that's okay. It's, you may have some unfair things that have happened to you. Maybe you've been taken advantage of by a business owner, and it's left you, in a difficult situation to run. Is that your fault? Well, maybe there's some decisions that you could have made that you could have protected yourself on. But man, like as they say, hindsight's 2020. You just didn't see it. People don't see things, and so play the cards that you're dealt. Don't dwell. So it's easy to get so wrapped up in the bad things that happen to you that you lose sight of any other progress that you can make, and you just are stuck living in that past. So playing the cards you're dealt, being happy with the progress that you can make, those are the types of things that are going to help you to keep going forward, even when you're facing some really bad things, or some unfair things that may have happened to you. As they say, life doesn't owe you anything. We're not entitled to anything in this. And certainly your business is not entitled to success. So doing the best that you can, again, talking with your mentors about this, it's going to really help you. So these are some things that we talked about. Again, talking to a friend or mentor, learning to be at peace with failure and struggle, not basing your self-worth on how your business is doing, preparing and planning for the things that you can, but also accepting what you can't control and play the cards that you're dealt. So those are some coping skills that you can have, that you can use to help you to deal with the mental health aspects of running a business. Now, this is certainly not a conclusive list. These are just things that I personally have benefited from, and I wanted to share with you. But really, it's something that I see a lot, and especially with men, since window cleaning is definitely a male-dominated industry. We certainly are having way more female representation in business owners, which is awesome, and I hope we continue to see that. But with the males, we tend to have view mental illness or mental challenges as a weakness. And we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to let people know that, hey, you know what? I have anxiety, and sometimes it keeps me up at night. Sometimes I only get 2 hours of sleep because I can't stop thinking about the pressures of running my business, or worrying about how am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to pay the mortgage? What if my vehicle, gets repossessed because I can't make that payment? So some guys they just hold it in until everything just falls apart. And a lot of times there's business owners who I have known and respected and known, and they just disappear. And I'm like, what happened to them? And you find out later that their business just fell apart. There was just some bad decisions, and pretty soon their business is gone. Either someone else came and bought it from them, or they just gave away their customers and they just went off, and they were depressed. It doesn't have to be like that. And we have to get past that stigma of that real men don't, stress doesn't affect them. It does. It affects all of us, every single one of us, to different degrees. Now, certainly there are some people who handle stress really well. They just are not bothered or affected by anything, right? They're unflappable. And if you're that type of individual, hey, man, more power to you. And you're probably a successful business person because of it. But for the rest of us, where anxiety, depression, stress, having difficulty dealing with stress, those are just a way of life. There's things we can do about it. And certainly ITF is an area in which you can find support and you can find that mentor that might be able to help you kind of break through these walls that we're keeping ourselves behind, one as a protection, but also it becomes a way that it stunts our growth. So be open to talking about it, man, and hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully you are all doing your best in dealing and handling the stress that comes with it, because you have a lot to offer. And if you are a part of ITF, you can help other people as you see them struggle and deal with these issues as well. So anyways, thanks so much for taking the time, guys. This has been Gabe's Corner. We thank you all. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And as always, flow on.